Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever it is where you are. My name is Spicy Paladin, and I am just humbled and privileged to be demonstrating Death's Gambit Afterlife for your consideration for the big stage at GDQ. Death's Gambit is a phenomenal game that I think is wildly underrated, one of the best Metroidvanias out there, and it is picking up in popularity after recently, at the time of this recording, being included in an epic sale where it was available for free, so we suddenly started seeing a lot more activity on the speedrunning Discord and on the subreddit, so this game seems to be picking up in popularity and might be a great time to showcase. This is ending A, which I'm hoping to submit as a donation incentive following an original ending C run, which I'm also including with my submission. And then should the donation incentive be met, we may consider then boosting that up to ending A. I am currently the world record holder on speedrun.com for ending A, and I'm currently second place for ending C, so I'm hoping that that qualifies me to be able to run this. We'll get it going here in just a few minutes, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about why we are running this on the Switch, which is a slower console than where the world record is run, which is on PlayStation. But first, let's go ahead and get started here in about 3, 2, 1, go. I promise I'll actually get a good 3, 2, 1 going when we're on stage, but for now I'm just excited to be working with you guys. So as I mentioned, we are running this on the Switch, and the reason for that is because the Switch is very, very marathon safe. And so since we would be wanting to use a marathon safe version on stage, then I imagine we would want to have my submission be on the console that we'd actually be running. The PlayStation version is several minutes faster, strictly because of loading times. However, the PlayStation version is not at all marathon safe. The PlayStation version has a lot of issues, particularly with corrupted save files and the game simply choosing not to save and lots of crashes, and none of those things are marathon safe, so we simply run the Switch version so that we don't have to worry about that. Right now we're just selecting our class and our beginning item. We're choosing Sentinel because it works out well with a Great Hammer build. The different weapons in this game scale with different statistics that you might expect in kind of an RPG-flavored Metroidvania. A lot of weapons scale with strength, other weapons scale with finesse, and the Great Hammer is one of, if not the only weapon that scales with vitality. So that means we have the option to, at level up, boost both our health and our damage output at the same time. And as you can imagine, efficiency is fast. So we are going to go ahead and utilize a Sentinel build so that we can use a Great Hammer run, and then also after that, when we had a selection of items to choose, we choose the Crystal Bombs because they're going to allow us to go ahead and mostly trivialize the first two bosses. And then we go ahead and make a pact with Death, which basically says, hey, we died, and now he's bringing us back to life so that we can do some stuff for him. And that's kind of the storyline of the game, is that every time you die, it's not that the player goes back in time to try again to when they didn't die. Each death is actually canon, because then Death scoops up your soul and you try again. We're going to be trying very hard to not die. Hey, nice to get that little jump there. It's a pretty tight window. We're going to be trying very hard to not die. In fact, something that I'll just go ahead and tell you guys right away that I think might make this game particularly interesting for the viewers is that we are going to be activating pretty early on in the run permadeath, which means if we die, our save file is erased. Daunting and scary, and certainly doesn't sound marathon safe, but please don't stop the video and hang up and decide that this game isn't appropriate for GDQ. This game is still going to be extremely marathon safe because, as much as that is the case that we're going to be turning on permadeath so that if you die your save file is erased, it's extremely easy to simply home menu out back to the Switch main menu, close the game, reload it, and then reload from your last save point. So that would be pretty anticlimactic if it does happen to us in the run, but if it happens, it happens. It's not a big deal. We lose about a minute just closing the game and reloading it, so not the biggest punishment. And then, of course, it's very exciting to be running a game where, man, if we die, our save file would be erased and we have to start all over. And then, of course, if I do die, the gig is up and and we just say, well, actually, we're just going to reload and it's fine. Not a big deal, but hopefully something that is exciting for the viewers. I've been giving you guys a lot of background rather than actually commenting on what's happening in-game here. We'll switch that up now that I've told you a little bit more about what's happening. If I'm fortunate enough to be selected, I do intend to have some commentators on the couch who will be providing a lot of the commentary while I'm actually focusing on playing in the game. But I'll still provide as much commentary for you as possible here so that you have as much information as possible when making your selections on the game committee. This is the first boss of the game. This is Ione. We're just going to dash ahead, hit her 3 times, and then pop her with a few of these crystal bombs that we picked up in the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Finish her off, and that is the first boss. Pause for applause from the crowd right there. We pick up the Rusty Charm that she drops. That is going to be completely irrelevant to us in this run. Casually, it's extremely powerful for ending A specifically, because that Rusty Charm that we picked up does nothing except for if you equip it in your helmet slot at the very, very, very end of the game on the final actual boss. It reduces the damage you take by 40%, which casually is incredible. But we're not going to use that. Instead, we're going to be using things that just boost our vitality so that we can do as much damage as possible and kill as many things as possible. So we watch a quick little cutscene here as we see the storyline associated with that Rusty Charm that we picked up, and we pick up this little crystal to kind of work our way through this sort of tutorial island, so to speak. There are 3 little lights that we're going to pick up that kind of get us away from the starting area. Those are the first 2. And now we're just going to double back a little bit, do some quick movement here to try to get to the final one. And then once we do get the final one, we are going to crow feather out. And we're going to do that a lot in this game. And what that means is that you can pick up a consumable item called a crow feather. And what that does is it just teleports you back to your last save point, which are known as death idols in this game. Like, that's one right there that we're just going to skip because we don't need it. And more specifically, because the crow feathers warp us to the last death idol that we used. We have not used one yet. We've just been running, which means that if we use a death idol this early, it's just going to send us right back to kind of the beginning area where we left our horse, which is exactly where we want to go anyway. This is a bit of a tutorial area. As you saw, that bad guy just kind of took a knee and very briefly had a purple shield pop up over him. This is the part of the game that teaches you that when an enemy has a little shield over him like that, you have to use an ability to break it and then damage the bad guy as intended. So we very quickly used that first ability associated with this great sword that we're going to get rid of in just a couple of minutes. Blast through that single tutorial. As soon as the short cutscene ends, we use the crow's feather, and it bamps us right back here to our horse, and we are moving on from this little tutorial section. So we're going to be riding here for just a short bit of time, and then we're going to very quickly be into the second boss of the game, and then be just about done with the sword that we're using as the default weapon. We just ride to the end of this hallway, up to the boss. If you continue to ride him too far, then the horse kind of auto-stops and you have to dismount him manually. You use a little bit of time. Instead, we hop off like that and just save a couple of seconds. And this is the Owl King, the second boss. We're going to start by just spamming crystal bombs into his face. There we go. Let's stack a little bleed effect on him and then lay into him. Avoid that attack, which is fairly scripted. Okay, and that's Owl King. So 2 quick bosses out of the way, and now we're going to actually get some quick movement in the game. Now we have the air dash. So I'm sure you may have noticed that up to this point I've been kind of rolling to move quickly. Now we can just huzzah in this way throughout pretty much the rest of the game. It's actually a little bit more complicated than it looks, because it's not a dash, it is an air dash, which means every time I do it, I'm basically pressing jump and dash at the same time so that I'm effectively air dashing while jumping as little as possible. And just to showcase, again, how kind of beautiful this game is, I'm going to hush for just a second at this beautiful intro where you kind of hear the amazing soundtrack and sort of see this central sanctuary area. And as I was saying, I was going to hush, it's all over, because we're moving fast, so that's okay. Let me go ahead and use this death idol here, because we are going to bamf back here using the crow feather shortly. But again, I just quickly commented on the soundtrack of this game. Personally, this game has the best soundtrack of all time. hard stop. I won't hear any argument about it. Maybe rivaled by Nier Automata in my personal opinion, but oh my goodness, does this game have such a fantastic soundtrack. I love it so much. And even though we won't get to hear much of it, the voice acting is also incredible. Death is voice acted by a very prolific and currently very popular voice actor named Matt Mercer. And he does a phenomenal job as your homie Death, making sure that if we ever die, he brings us right back. Until we cancel his contract anyways, but we're going to do that shortly. We do a quick hop here to draw that arrow above us so it doesn't hit us. And see, I was a little distracted and talked to this person, so we're going to lose a couple of seconds doing that. What I meant to do is drop some traps at her feet, because we actually want to kill her. She's very upset about it, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more, again, because I accidentally spoke to her just a second ago. But we're just going to kill her and take that cape, because that's going to boost our vitality, and we want to go fast. So sorry about that. And then we're going to run over here to this little shopkeep, and we're going to buy a bunch of crow feathers, all the ones we should need for the run. And then we're going to hop over and buy the Great Hammer. So now we are in full-on Sentinel mode. Equip all the things that I just got. Use that Immortalite stone that we picked up recently. What those Immortalite stones are they allow us to basically get a bunch of experience at once. And what experience in this game is called Essence. Essence is both what we use to level up, and it's our currency. So when you're playing this game, you kind of have to decide at any given point, are you going to hoard all your essence to level up as much as possible, or do you use some in order to buy things? It's a balancing act. We've got it pretty well figured out for the purposes of the speed run. And I picked up a second book there for the Bulwark. I was talking about other things when I picked up the first one, so I didn't have much chance to explain them. But what those books do is, as you find them, you do an additional 5% damage to the specific boss associated with it. So that was the Bulwark book, which means that upon finding each of the first two, cumulatively, they give us 10% extra damage to the Bulwark boss, who we're about to come challenge here pretty soon. We grab that second one, we crow feather back to the last idol we used, we do our first level ups, which I'm now describing after the fact. I promise I'll catch up here in a moment with my commentary, and now we're zipping along to the Bulwark. This is going to be the end of the run in which we are protected by Death's contract, because we are about to subject ourselves to a little bit of just waiting for some conversation, and while that's happening, that's when we destroy the contract. The reason we do it at this particular moment, is twofold. One, because upon beating this boss, we are going to get the ability that doubles our essence because we are mortal. And that's why we cancel the contract, is because from this moment on, we are going to get double experience, which is incredible. It's huge. Double experience for the rest of the game this early is going to allow us to get super buff, allow us to smoke a lot of these bosses for the low price of, if we die, the run is over. Except not for us, because we can always just menu out and respawn. So we go ahead and use that there, and also, as you saw, when you kind of activate the cancellation of the contract, it takes a long time because the game doesn't want you to do it accidentally. So we do it while we're waiting for that conversation to happen. So this is Bulwark. We are going to dodge his kind of lightning strikes. We're going to stay behind him when he's swinging. We're going to use this jump attack a lot with the hammer, because as you can see, the big overhand slam, bam, is pretty slow, but I can do this kind of jump swing pretty quickly. So depending on the situation for the rest of the game, we're going to do an overhand slam as often as we can because it does a ton of damage. But because it's so slow, we're going to do this quick little jump attack here as often as possible. I realize I'm barely jumping, so you might not realize it's a jump attack, but it is just kind of jumping and attacking at the same time. So we'll go ahead and activate that ability right there. So now for the rest of the game, double essence for all kills, which is incredible. Now with the death of the Bulwark, we're going to gain this ability, so now we can double jump, kind of your classic Metroidvania. Oh, you get a boss, you earn the ability to dash. You get another boss, you earn the ability to double jump. So things that Metroidvania fans are going to be familiar with, and now we're moving on. We're going to skip a death idol here for a very specific reason. That's going to save us several minutes. So the last time we crow feathered, we vamped back to Central Sanctuary, and that's actually where we want to go again after this next boss. So we do not save and do not heal at a death idol for 2 straight bosses and everything in between, because it's going to save us several minutes of walking all the way back to Sanctuary. Instead, we're just going to try to be good and survive all that time without saving, so that we can crow feather after the second boss and just warp all the way back and save a bunch of time. This is a bad guy who looks a lot like us, because it is. There's one of these little clone versions of us for each of the different classes in the game, and this is the one for the Sentinel. So you can see he's wielding a big, great hammer like us. The reason we go out of our way to fight him is because defeating him earns us an ability that is going to be... Dang it. Defeating him earns an ability that's going to be extremely useful for us for the rest of the game, and it gives us a great hammer +2. So now we beat him, we equip that, and we equip the aura we just got out of that treasure chest. Man, a little sloppy so far. And the item that we just got out of that treasure chest is the haste aura, so now we're going to be air dashing much faster. The rest of the game, we're going to be going back and forth between equipping the haste aura, and then just before bosses, equipping a different aura that boosts our vitality so that we can do more damage to that boss specifically. The one we have right now is called the Fragile Courage. It boosts our vitality by 15. That's 15 level ups worth vitality. It's a lot, but it breaks upon death. So casually, it's a big risk, because if you die while wearing it, poof, it's gone. But we're not going to die. So we're not going to worry about that. We're going to make sure we put that on for boss battles, and otherwise we're putting on the haste aura so we can zip around very quickly. Now we're going to do a quick shopping episode with one of my favorite little characters of the game to buy that sigil. The reason will become evident much, much later. There's an area much later in the game where we have to break a lock with fire damage and lightning damage and dark damage, and that sigil is the most efficient way for us to have access to do dark damage and break that lock. So we just go and grab it now, and it saves us a bunch of time moving on. We're going to get a couple of hits on these guys, not necessarily worried about killing them, but if you can see that purple bar in the top left corner of the screen, that's my health and then my stamina, and that purple bar is what fuels our being able to use our abilities. And we're about to fight a sniper boss who's going to hide a lot in the background and waste a lot of time taking pot shots at us. So we build up that meter a little bit so that we can use our X button ability for a while. I usually don't get caught by that. To try to save some time. So as this boss starts, we're going to go ahead and try to smack her with it. Bop! That's a pretty significant amount of damage, and we like to do that right at the beginning to save some time. And what we're going to be doing here is we want her to jump into the background as little as possible, like she always does right there. Because now we drink our coffee, we make a sandwich, we do whatever we want while she's just taking pot shots at us. There's not really much for us to do to save time here. Except try to lure her. I'm now moving all the way to the right side of the map to kind of lure her to jump to the left side of the map so I can predict where she is, start getting there a little bit faster, hit her with my ability again, which again is going to save some time. And I'm just going to do mostly jumping attacks here, because if I do big overhand slams, she's likely to just run out of the way. She's a sniper. She's not trying to melee me much. But when she does kind of a dash back and forth attack with a knife, we like that too, because it's fairly easy to counter, and we get to do another big attack with that. It's also why we picked up this Guy in Blood ability, which I'm going to use here, in order to have the chance to activate again. That consumable I just used boosted my purple bar again, so that now I can hit her with that ability. And she's going to pop some bombs up, which we don't like to see. I kind of had to bail out there from the opportunity to counter one of her slash attacks, because we don't want bombs raining down on her face. That's bad. I'm going to miss that. This is actually pretty sloppy, but we're going to be okay. I'm not too worried about it. I usually do pretty well in this run. I think I'm just being distracted by how constantly talking I am, but that's fine. Let's show you guys we can do it, and once again, if we die, no big deal. We just lose about a minute reloading the game. Now I'm going to shoot off to the left so that she respawns to the right. That flash on the right side of the screen shows me which direction in which she went. She can move out of the way, but I'll counter her. That's okay. And maybe we can finish her before she bounces again. Yeah. And that's Auriga. Kind of a sloppy fight. Got a little closer to death than I wanted to be, but that's okay. She's going to have some dialogue here for a moment. So now when we're on stage, this would be a good time for some donations. But you guys aren't doing donations right now. You're considering me as the games committee, so I'll do my best to kind of fill in the gaps and give you something to listen to. What we're seeing now, this is a short cutscene where it's kind of showing our destination for the end of the game. So we're speedrunners. We don't typically care about storyline, but for all intents and purposes, the reason Death has made a contract with us is because the source of immortality is over there in that big castle guarded by all those things. And as you can imagine, Death doesn't believe in immortality. He'd be out of a job. And all kinds of moral conundrums and stuff like that. So we agreed to go eradicate the source of immortality. So that area is our ultimate goal. We're going to hear some scheming here by bad guys. We're going to end up killing both of them later. And then we get our control back and zip right back to Auriga. We're not going to talk to him. He's actually a fairly important ally to the story. Not necessarily to speedruns. We'll catch up with him much, much later, especially in Ending A, which is what we're doing now. We get the Forbidden Key from Auriga, which is an area we'll access later. Instead of going to this area now, we're going to go defeat some other bosses, which are more on the way. Now I'm going to Crow Feather, and since we didn't do any healing at a Death Idol since we last bamped over here, we get all the way back over. I'm going to equip my Haste Aura, unequip my last Guy in Blood, because we're not going to need it for a while. Level up, and we are moving on. So far so good right now. We're going to kind of bamf back to where-ish we started. Now that we can double jump, we can access a boss that we couldn't access earlier. So we're going to use this bell to resummon our horse. Those bells can always just call our horse from wherever she was and bring her on back. And we're just going to ride her for a little while over here, away from where the Owl King was. What you may have seen there for just a brief moment was kind of that floating head. So when you defeat a boss, you can refight a harder version of that boss called the heroic version, and that is how we unlock Ending A. So at a certain point in the game where the donation incentive would be cut off, if we have unlocked the donation incentive for Ending A, that's where I'm going to venture off and go re-defeat harder versions of 5 more bosses, those heroic versions, so that we can unlock Ending A. And it actually unlocks a pretty significant amount of content. I really, really hope we have the opportunity to do it. The game gets extremely trippy. It gets extremely creepy. The heroic bosses are hard. The boss of the game, who you don't even see in Ending C, kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit. It's really cool. But onto this boss. We're going to drop some traps here, because Ione's going to get in the way. So we're fighting this big statue, and we need to break its knee, and we're going to try to one-cycle it. No problem. The way that boss worked is that you defeat the foot, force it to take a knee, then do a bunch of damage to the knee, and if you don't manage to one-cycle it, it stands back up. You have to break down the foot again, so you can do more damage to the knee again. That's slow, so it's fairly scripted at this point. And we just Crow Feather back after Ione has more to say. She calls us a meddlesome twit because she doesn't think we're doing what's best right now. But she'll join us later. She'll come to see we're doing the right thing. We Crow Feather back out. See a longer loading sequence here because, again, we're running this on the Switch. Here we are. And we're moving right along. We could level up right now, but that's slow. We don't really need to. We shouldn't have much problem with the next boss. We are going to get to my second least favorite jump of the game, and that is we're going to very quickly pick up the 2 books for the next boss, and the second one can be a little tricky to get. First, we're just going to zip over here, dance on past these guys. We don't really need these books for the version of the boss we're about to fight right now, but they get super helpful for the heroic version of this boss, which in my opinion is the single hardest fight in the game. I'm going to miss that the first time. There we go. That jump can be a little finicky, but not too difficult. We just move right on along. And before we climb up in this area, we are going to do a quick crash down, because that's the ability we just got from the last boss, so now we can drop very, very quickly. We're going to pick up those fire bombs. Those will be useful later. And now we're just going to rise on and head to the next boss, who is the Soul of the Phoenix. Not too tricky the first time around for a speedrun, but again, in my opinion, easily the hardest heroic boss. The biggest challenge of the run for sure, and of course it's not until much, much later. We'll be fine. We're gonna just dash our way through that room. We do have to be careful with dashing, because if we dash without stamina, we just kind of jump and can't dash through enemies, things like that. We're gonna drop some traps here, equip our Fragile Courage, spawn the boss, and she's gonna walk right into all those traps for us. Bonk, thanks very much. Get some hits in, and then get out of the way of this first spin attack that she always does. It also tries to pull us in, but we're not going to allow that. And we're going to hopefully get her stuck in a loop here where she's going to try to hit us, and we just counter it. Try to sneak in an extra hit. She swings, we counter. She's going to try to do another spin to win. I interrupt her with my X ability. Block, counter, do it again, block, counter, smooth as butter. That went great. That's exactly how we like to see that fight go. We activate our next ability, which is actually really great. What this next ability does, not this one that we're earning for defeating the boss right there, but the one we unlocked in our skill tree, allows it so that when we do a combo finisher, it adds a multiplier to our air attack. And those are the only things that we do, is we do that big overhand slam, which is actually considered a combo finisher, and then we do our quicker jump attacks. So if we spam some combo finishers, we get some big multipliers on our jump attacks, and that's going to help with big damage later on. So let's do a quick level up, always boosting vitality because we like boosting our health and our damage output at the same time. We're going to zip on over here, pick up some more crystal bombs, drop on down. I'm not a big fan of this section because I feel like you have to dash through it really perfectly or else you can kind of take some phantom damage. I swear I get way past these guys and they still manage to hit me from a mile away. I don't like it. That is a little tutorial sequence that when you see a little purple circle begin to expand on the screen, you got to jump into it to deactivate it, otherwise it causes a big explosion. That's the next boss. He just kind of tried to creep us out there for a moment. He's supposed to kind of frighten and stun us, but we just jump past him. We're going to zip through all these guys, no problem, crash down, activate the switch. That's actually the area we need to go, and with those platforms we can now jump up there. So we're just going to travel back the way we came, try not to run into those, try to dash through all these guys while managing our stamina so we don't get bonked, and we're going to hop up. And now we're just going to try to do some crafty jumping to not have to jump back and forth, move a little bit more quickly. Swing on over here just in rhythm to avoid these energy balls. And we are about to already be at the next boss. We're going to see Wraith King Sarad. We're going to trigger the boss. He's going to do a little monologuing. That's going to give us some time to drop some traps where we know he's going to spawn. And then we're going to equip our Fragile Courage. And we're going to use some overhand swings. As you can see in the top right, it's increasing our air attack damage, which is really, really nice. So we'll get some bonus damage on our next hit. And I'm going to focus up here just for a minute because he can do a few different attacks. This is the slow one. We don't like to see him throw fire. He's going to try to either grab at us or swing a sword at us. Now we're already in second stage. We're going to miss the block. That's okay. Hit that block. And he's done. Outstanding. Very quickly put our haste aura back on. Usually I like to, while we're waiting for that ability to drop down, it's a good time to re-switch into our haste aura so we don't lose any time. And what this ability does is now we can catch those magical flowers, we can fly for 9 seconds, which is really nice. We're going to activate this death idol, not necessarily because we needed to save or level up yet, but because, surprise, surprise, we're going to crow feather here pretty soon. But we're on our way to the next boss, quote, quote, quote. I feel like this will be a fan favorite because we're going to fight a big doggo. But we like doggos. Who wants to fight dogs? Dogs are great. We don't want to fight dogs. Casually, you can fight this boss and he can be a lot of fun. But speedrunner-wise, there is absolutely a pacifist way to fight this dog. You literally, instead of fighting him, you can just give him a pet on the snoot and he just gives you what you need and you can leave. That guy right there was Fink. We kill him right there. He's a little merchant where if you talk to him and don't buy anything, he immediately tries to kill you. And then will show up several other times in the run, specifically capturing you at one point and losing a bunch of time. So we kill him right there just to make sure that doesn't happen because it would lose a lot of time. Now we're just going to do some stamina. We're going to do some stamina management to get through this kind of narrow section. I'm going to bonk against that, crash down there and there to go through here. Get this face away from us before he eventually bites us. Gonna crash the first switch, skip the second switch, crash the third switch so we can just jump on through. And now we are gonna approach the next boss. We wanna do this pretty quickly because if we're too slow, then we'll miss the cycle for our ability to pet the doggo's face. And then we have to wait for him to put his face back down, but no problem. We give him a pet, he gives us a treat, we crow feather out, done, no problem. He gave us what we need, so that's great. And when I'm not doing so much explaining for you guys on here for game submission, we're actually on stage. We can kind of build that up to go see Big Doggo, but we don't want to fight the doggo. We like doggos. We pet the doggo, and it's much faster, and we're out of there. So now we're going to dash on to the next actual boss. But first, I had to pause and do a little bit of menuing because this is where those 3 locks are that I alluded to earlier. There's going to be a lock in which we need to do some fire damage, and then do some electric damage, and then do some dark damage. So we do that just by throwing a fire bomb, and then crystal bombs, and then hitting with that dark sigil that we bought. So there's our fire bomb. For some reason, the crystal bomb needs 2. We activate our dark sigil, pop, pop, break the 3 locks, and we are moving on. So now we head to Almavero's Tower. This is a fairly tricky area. I feel like casually we are meant to come here much, much later, but for routing reasons, it's faster to come here now. So we are just going to dash through a bunch of these guys. Remember him? He was the second boss of the game. We're just going to leave. There's actually a bunch of them around. They can be a little scary. We're just going to kind of sneak through this secret area. As you saw, there, it looks like this area was inaccessible. Then you turn your back to it, and it is accessible. So you just kind of have to moonwalk in to be able to hit that lever so that we can actually access where we need to go. We are going to skip this next little clone of us here, who is another class that we don't care about. Grab the first book for the next boss, dip, get a new plume. Those are how we heal. We actually don't use many of them. So this game, I didn't really explain it, but it happened early at the beginning. You can augment your plumes, which means you lose, let's say you have 6 plumes. That means you can heal 6 times. Or I can, for each one I choose to spend at a statue like this, I get 5% bonus to my overall damage. So right now I have 6 plumes augmented, which means I just do a flat additional 30% damage all the time. And so I only have 1 plume left over to heal if needed. I also pick up that Leaf of Gaia because it's just an instant full heal and is good for emergencies. Now we're in a little area where we gotta kind of overcome 4 challenges. And each one provides you with a handicap after you complete it. So in the top right corner, you can see we're now just at 70% max health. That's what's inflicted to us after defeating the first one. We now defeat that second one. Healing uses up to 2 plumes now. We actually go through this so quickly, it's almost a challenge to actually describe what they're all doing. We defeat the third one. Now every dash completely depletes our stamina gauge, so it makes stamina management a little bit more difficult. We're just going to bop this guy a few times, and we're done. Those 4 challenges are what opened the door to the next boss. We went through them so quickly it was hard to describe exactly what they're doing. We're going to crow feather just right back up here and move on to the next boss. So we're going to dash all the way to him because we initiate the battle by talking to him, and we're going to change our auras and put the bow back on for the last point in the game. In order to do our main overhand attack, we can't have a secondary weapon equipped, so we usually never have a bow equipped. But for this battle in particular, we want to have a bow equipped a lot of the time, because he throws up these things that we have to defeat in a short period of time. The bow just makes that trivial. So we put it back on for just this boss. And if you have a sharp eye and noticed, we actually didn't equip the Fragile Courage for this boss. We equipped the aura we just got from Happy Doggo. So what it does, again, the Fragile Courage is plus 15% to your vitality. The new one we got, I'll just call it Doggo's Aura. That's not what it's called, but I like it. It only grants us a plus 5 to vitality instead of 15, but it grants us an additional 50% essence. So we put that on before each boss battle so that now when we defeat bosses, we get double essence from being immortal, having permadeath equipped, and we also get 50% damage from having that aura equipped. So we're just going to be leveling up a lot. This boss can be challenging, but is fairly simple in that he, for the most part, cycles between his 3 attacks and then bamps out and leaves us with, for example, those 4 balls, which are the whole reason we have the bow re-equipped. We wait for him to reappear, get my ability in, and then he's just going to do his 3 different attacks in a random order. I do my best to perfect block them. So if you pull up your sword, or excuse me, if you pull up your shield at the exact right moment as you're about to be hit, you have the opportunity to kind of do a crossing slash attack that usually does a bunch of damage. For the most part, you can do it every time you perfect perfect block. For this boss, you have to do it 3 times. You can kind of see his 3 little shields in the top right part of his health bar. That's an indication of how many blocks you have to hit before you can do your next counter. Now that we've got him most of the way dead, we're just going to dodge through these beams. You just run to one side and dodge when you need to, but now they go back and forth, so that makes things a little more challenging. We're going to dodge these big meteors that are coming for us and just not get too greedy trying to squeeze in hits and wait for them to come on back. So there's 1 counter, 2 counter, and whoop, there's 3, and so you get our cross slash. So we've been doing that this whole time. I've just been talking about other stuff. Try to get an extra hit in before he bamps away, and that's really the cycle. So not too much else to describe for this boss. If we were live, I would say it's a good time for donations. In the meantime, we're just going to block and hit, perfect block and hit, and perfect block and slash. Try to squeeze in our X ability when we can for big chunks of damage. Ooh, he's almost down, but it wasn't quite enough to avoid this next cycle. That's okay. We should be able to get him at this next one. Perfect block. Bop. Perfect block. Bop. One more. Perfect block. And that's him. So that's the Galaxy Mage. A pretty neat boss, casually, I might add. Just a little slow for a speed run. And of course, he's fine. He's actually a super huge, powerful being. He just says, "Be gone, pest," when we defeat him. And we do that by just crow feathering out. So we see this longish load screen because we're on the switch. Head back here, put my haste aura back on, unequip my bow again because we want to be able to do our overhand slash. I'll equip our Leaves of Gaia. Probably should have equipped that the first time just in case of emergency because again, those are full heals. We level up and we're going to move on to the next boss. So now just a little bit of travel onto the next area. One thing that I like about this game in particular is that it's not a Metroidvania in which the map is so large it's a pain in the butt to travel back and forth. A lot of people who aren't as into Metroidvanias don't always love the back and forth essence of them. I think this game is pretty welcoming as a Metroidvania in that the map isn't that big. So if you're not super sure where to go or you need to backtrack to another area you couldn't access before, it's never super far away, even casually. It's a pretty forgiving aspect for a Metroidvania, but the battle is pretty challenging for casual fans. We're going to dash right on through here, and now we're going to access an area that wasn't available to us before, which is down here. Bop, bop, bop. And now we're going to head to a very dark area. So this area is filled with bad guys who are immune to all damage unless you illuminate them with like an item called a sunstone, which drops light. Instead, we're just going to skip them all. Just dash on through. We know where we're going. We're not worried about any of these bad guys. And we're all ready to the next boss. So we're going to dash ahead with our haste aura, put on our puppy dog aura to get the bonus to essence and vitality. And here's the Dark Knight. So what we're going to do is we're going to know what attack he's about to do based on the body language of his telegraph. So we know when we have time to do a big overhand attack like that, and when he's about to do something else so we can just do quick jump slashes like this. He actually hits pretty hard, but is also pretty telegraphing. Ow. So we shouldn't have too much difficulty here. And everybody hates bad guys who heal. Spoiler alert, we're going to defeat him, and then he's going to summon in some bad guys who are going to heal him. So he's down. But the battle's not over, because here comes 4 dudes, oh no, I'm going to miss the last one, who are going to heal him a little bit. So now he's got some health back. We got to go ahead and whittle him back down. Fortunately, not too much of an issue, and he's done. Ione actually sniped the last hit from us. Thanks very much, Ione. Stealing my thunder. Don't you realize I'm trying to submit this for GDQ? That's okay, we'll get her back right now because she's about to drop down and make some dialogue, and we don't want to hear it, so we just leave. This section is where the game kind of gets especially interesting. We use the forbidden key we got from Auriga, and what is this holographic technological creature? That's trippy. This whole game has been castles and medieval and that certain vibe, and now we just dashed right past a death idol where you can normally save, but instead of a statue, the whole thing was kind of electronic and holographic. This is where things get interesting. Storyline-wise, you realize this is where the source of immortality was discovered. You know, super technological stuff. But it's pretty neat. You know, you're playing this whole game, and it's all medieval and that sort of essence, and then you start getting into this crazy underground bunker of technology and weird stuff. In Ending C, you don't spend much time here, but fortunately for us, we are running Ending A right now. So once we unlock Ending A, we actually have to come back to this area, and it's a pretty neat little section. But for us right now in this first area, it's actually going to be pretty quick. We send the elevator back up so we can snab this Immortalite Stone underneath there. Again, that's basically just free essence when we activate it. We'll use it all later. We do activate that quick death idol because that is exactly where we want to fast travel to later for ending A, but we're not going to worry about that right now. And I did say fast travel because for the overwhelming majority of the game, that doesn't exist, and we just crow feather to zip back to the last place we used a death idol. But very, very late in the game, very, very late in the game, you do access the ability to actually fast travel to death idols you've used before, which is going to make it much, much easier to go back and fight bosses we fought before and come back to this area, which is necessary for ending A. I'm taking a little too much damage here, so I'm going to do a little safety heal. Fight another one of these guys. I had my shield up, but he had not enough stamina, so he just stunned me for a moment. Handle it, no problem. That allows us to move on. And we're about to get to a little bit of an entertaining scene. So another long elevator cutscene, except this time the next boss is going to come down and bother us a bit. Fortunately, it's pretty free. You have to do a certain amount of damage to him, or else it just keeps cycling. So we're going to drop some traps down so that he'll pop right down onto him. Going to have a short conversation with Death. And equip that shield we just picked up, and this is actually a good time to activate some of the abilities that we haven't had a convenient moment to activate, because this next creature is going to run after us down this elevator shaft. We just need to bop him a couple of times and avoid these balls he shoots down at us, and then he's just going to land in all our traps and we're good. He's just going to slash around us. We can just stand here. It's no problem. We've already done all the damage we need so that he leaves just like that. And as long as we stay in the middle, he can't touch us. So it's not nearly as dangerous as it looks. And we're moving on. I got enough health where I don't need to worry about that death idol. We're going to avoid these little roaming electric traps. We don't need to solve this puzzle because we already know there's a gap in the wall right there, so we just zip on through it. We see the next boss healing himself a little bit. Not a lot we can do there. And now you'll notice we're kind of glowing red, and other enemies are glowing blue, like this guy. So the gimmick here is that the red and blue demonstrate your polarity, and if you are opposite polarity of an enemy, you both do double damage to each other. So we do double damage to the enemy, okay, and we take double damage from the enemy. And if you're the same polarity, it's half. You do half damage, but also take half damage. We're speedrunning, we're trying to go fast, so we're going to be opposite polarity of the boss to do as much damage as possible. Casually, it's a pretty interesting way to only take half damage, but it's dealer's choice. Do you want to do double damage and take double damage, or do half take half? Up to you, but we're speedrunners, so we're going fast. This is the next boss area. We're going to quickly change our polarity for that purpose. We're going to drop a bunch of traps where we know the boss is coming. There he is, but he's still going to monologue for a while, so we're just going to use that opportunity to activate our puppy dog aura for the extra essence and build up our air attack damage multiplier. And go on and monologue, and then because of video game logic, as soon as the boss battle starts, then he'll suddenly trigger the traps and take a bunch of damage. Poof. And that big attack right there is what we want to avoid at all costs. Ooh, we did it twice. If you get hit by that attack, it does a lot of damage while we are opposite polarity. So we want to do everything we can to avoid it. And also, he started to charge some things in the background. I'm going to be saving my X ability because it has a stun effect, so that whenever he starts charging stuff in the background, we can just stun him and stop him from doing that. Because he can activate little robots who try to attack us, activate bombs dropping from the ceiling, all things that are bad. We don't want any of that. We're just going to blast right through him. He's done. Go ahead and Crow's Feather. Instead of waiting for the explosion sequence, re-equip our Haste Aura, backtrack just enough so that our little electronic friendo unlocks the way to progress, and we are moving on. So that was the technological interesting area. Now we're about to get to the creepy interesting area. Don't mind the bodies that are hanging in the background, and we see a little vision of our mother and have a cutscene of our mother. Fortunately, it doesn't take very long necessarily. We're just going to click our way through, but little cutscene here as we think about our mom. and how she had to leave home, and we want to find her again. Oh, this game has a storyline? It's actually really good, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it casually. And it even comes up in some cool ways in the speedrun. And then as we're back, we kind of bamf on through this dark area. Casually, this is awful because there are things crawling around in the dark. You can hear them skittering, can't quite see where they are, but we know where they are, so we're just going to quick save at this death idol for the obvious reason of crow feathering back there later. So there's a gate we need to pass that requires a key, and that key is down here. So we are just going to mostly avoid this red pool that does damage every time you touch it. Not that it really matters, because when we crow feather, we full heal anyway. There's our key, we grab it, we crow feather out, bam, we're back here, and we're moving on. So we're zipping right along, we use that key, we skip all these death idols, mostly because we don't need them, also because they're traps. If you try to save at, say, that death idol, it doesn't save, it just hits you. Very, very super rude. You're supposed to be able to tell because it's actually kind of covered in blood, unlike any of the other death idols that you see throughout the game. We crash down, equip our puppy dog aura again, and here's the next boss. So this is the Eldritch Council. It's a long cycle of having this little guy show up and drop little just random effects on us. We have to defeat all 4 of these guys, and then the actual boss will come down. So that's one. Avoid that explosion, hit the next crystal, drop a trap for the next guy to possibly just walk into, avoid these little beams that are flying at us. These 4 guys are all the same. It just kind of repeats. We avoid these explosions, hit the 3rd one, avoid these beads. Well, don't avoid the beads that are coming from above. Just kind of make sure we attack all these things that are coming after us in the meantime while we're knocking out these 4 fish guys. I don't know what they are. There's the 4th one. Lay down some more traps just to do some damage to these guys so we can get rid of them as quickly as possible. Avoiding explosions, avoiding these big ugly red guys. That's 4, so now the boss drops down. And we're basically just going to wail on her. We're going to avoid as many of her attacks as possible. Like that little gravity well, going to use our ability as we can. Make sure that slow descending orb doesn't hit the ground or else it explodes and we take a bunch of damage. But we're just going to go ham. And that's the end of it. So that's great. And we move on. We start a little bit of a cutscene here. Casually, this is a very, very sad moment. But we're speedrunners, so we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to mash right on through. And on stage, if we are hopefully running ending C with a donation incentive for ending A, this is the moment where I need to know, have we met the donation incentive for ending A? As you may recall, in that technology area, we rode a lot of elevators down really, really far. So now we have a long section of flying all the way up. We just keep activating these little flowers that give us our 9 seconds of fly time. The true boss of the game is going to talk some smack in the background right there. And this is the divergent point between ending C and ending A. So for ending C, we're just going to head on to the end of the game. For ending A, we're going to start working on some heroic bosses. So for this video submission, we are doing ending A, so that's great. We're going to fly right on up. I love ending A. Ending A is, in my opinion, the only really real way to run the game, just because it's so cool, and you see some stuff that you don't otherwise see, and do really tough boss battles, and it's great. Admittedly, there is a fair amount of cutscenes, that we'll have to skip through that add some time, but it's good content, and it's beautifully well done, and I just love it. So we're going to activate our horsey here to head on to the first heroic boss. We're going to refight the sniper. She's going to have some extra tricks up her sleeve. We're going to pass that area first in order to save at a death idol that will warp to right after the battle. And I love where the death idol is. We're going to Fruities. It's a little restaurant area. You can hear some happy little restaurant background music. I'm telling you, this game is great. Just, why is there a restaurant here with little guys and just happy little music? I don't know. It's interesting. It's great. I love it. So we're going to save and level up at Fruities, restaurant and bar. Hop back on our horse, see some little guys. It's their restaurant. They're running little stuffs they need to the kitchen or something, I'm sure. And we're going to jump up here to get back into Auriga's area so we can challenge her for the heroic fight. But that happens when we say it does. So first, we're going to put some traps underneath her. And now at this point, we're going to stop using the puppy dog aura because the additional 50% essence isn't really worth it over the straight plus 10 vitality that we get from the fragile courage. So we're pretty much going to use that for the rest of our boss battles in the game. A lot of the same strategy here in terms of being able to counter her knife swings like that. Hitting our X ability when we can, and then having to dodge her bullets in the background. Fortunately, this time her shots are a little more frequent and rhythmic. I was just going to say so they're easier to dodge, and then I get shot in the face. It happens, no big deal. I just work my way all the way to the left of the screen so that I know she's going to respawn to the right side of the screen and get to working on her. Block, counter. Yeah, she's going to dodge my attack. That's okay. The good thing about my X ability is that as much damage as it does, even when I miss it, it does also just increase all hammer damage I do for a period of time, and it stacks up to an additional 25% hammer damage. So a lot of times you'll see me just use that X ability even when I'm not actually hitting anything, and that's just to go ahead and re-up my plus 5% stacking hammer damage increase. She's going to try to heal. We're going to interrupt her. No healing. We just dealt with healing bosses. That's slow. She's going to leave some little visual fake versions of herself. Throw some bombs in the air, which we hate. Do the dash attack, which we love. I'm going to miss the counter that time. I guess just to keep things interesting. Almost had her. Looks like we're going to do one more cycle. Avoid her blast. Whoop. Whoop. And then once she's taken her 6 shots, we can just start to move to where she's going to go. She can try to heal again. I actually love that because we're never going to actually allow her to heal. It just gives us a chance to wail on her for a little bit. And she's done. So we immediately Crow Feather out. We get a bunch of cool items on the left. You get some pretty cool stuff for defeating heroic bosses. So now we got a new helmet that gives us a bunch of vitality. It's pretty great. We go ahead and equip that. And now before we do more heroic bosses, we're actually going to progress towards the end of the game because it's on the way inconvenient. So past this door is where the final boss area is. We're going to make sure we have Crow Feathers equipped here because we're about to have a very creepy little conversation with this kid. And if we don't Crow Feather out right now, poof, we get stuck in about a 3.5-minute unskippable cutscene. And that is not fast, so we just make sure we have our Crow Feathers equipped so we can just immediately bamf out before it happens. We just run our way back to where it was and save a bunch of time. We're going to get the ability that she left behind, and so now we can fast travel. This is the Dream Shift, so now when we're at a Death Idol, we can fast travel. But first, we are going to kind of progress to the last area of the game, because we're already here, and then we'll start teleporting around, fast traveling to go fight the rest of the heroic bosses. We're about to be at the most difficult trick in the run, in my opinion. So we're supposed to fight through this whole castle, and it takes a long time. There's a bunch of enemies. Instead, we're just going to fly all the way up to the halfway point, and then we're going to do something pretty tricky. We are going to save at this Death Idol. We're going to drop back down, and then we're going to immediately Crow Feather back to that idol and use our remaining time with the feather to fly all the way up. So you're not supposed to have a feather here to be able to fly all the way up from this Death Idol. And it's a really tight window, but we got it. No problem. No problem. And we're moving on. So at that Death Idol, you're supposed to work your way through this whole castle, but I don't know if they necessarily intended it to or not, but I certainly never thought of it until I started learning speedrun the game. But you can absolutely get the feather that gives you the 9 seconds of fly, just Crow Feather back to that idol at the halfway point and fly all the way up. It saves so much time. We're just going to fight this little miniature version of the Forgotten Gaian, a boss we fought much earlier in the game. It's down, and now we kind of take the final elevator. This is where Death kind of tells us it's the final ascent. But we're not going to do that right now. We're going to use this opportunity while he's talking to activate some of our abilities, equip our Immortalite Stones so that we can use them to level up. And then we're going to take all those levels to go fight the last 4 heroic bosses since we already beat Auriga. There are 3 more Immortalite Stones over here. Grab those. Now we're just going to cash those bad boys in. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Eating Immortalite Stones, I guess. And let's do a level up, boost our vitality, And instead of progressing to the ending C boss of the game, where that kid would tell us, see that kid right there? He would tell us, leave this place, prove your worth, go back to where you previously overcame great challenges, where more challenges await. Hint, hint, go earn ending A. So we're going to do that. We are going to dream skip all the way back here and refight Ione. She is going to be super easy. As soon as we activate the fight, we're just going to start wailing on her. Since she's so level, we're going to keep her fairly stun-locked. And that's Ione. We crow feather right back out. And we're just going to dream shift straight to the second boss, and we're going to go fight the Owl King again. So surprise, surprise, the heroic versions of these bosses are much, much harder, so we generally refight the 5 easiest bosses because they're the fastest, and we want to win. So we skip that bell there because it's actually a little bit faster since we're only going this far to just dash. We're going to leave some traps for Owl King. Let's go ahead and put my my Fragile Courage back on, so we're doing as much damage as possible. Oh yeah, look at all that beautiful trap damage. Avoid some of these attacks, I hope. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Let's get out of there for a second. Calm it down. And that's that. Crow feather out. 2 more heroics. We're moving efficiently. We just got a bunch of hoods, helms from that boss, but none of them are as good as the one we got from Auriga, so we're just going to leave them. Put the haste aura back on because we're going to have to run for a bit. Now we're going to go and refight the Bulwark. For ending C, we usually don't bother to get the books for the Bulwark because the original version is not bad, but we make sure we get them whenever we're running ending A, and I'll make sure I'm getting them if I'm playing this on ending C in the event that we get ending A, because it saves a lot of time for the refight. So once again, we're going to put down some traps, and then I actually may have to focus up a little bit because this boss can be pretty challenging. Put my Fragile Courage back on, and here we go. All of these heroic bosses have some extra tricks up their sleeve. They do some extra things. They're mostly similar, but for example, this one's going to leave little light balls all over the map, which you can walk into and be damaged. See all those little yellow spheres? You trip on those, they do a bunch of damage. Fortunately, we can just kind of jump slash them away with our hammer. Open myself up for a little space. And we want to use the X ability to just cancel that. I didn't have mine off cooldown yet. Laying in, the reinforcements come. Let's just get those out of the way. It's actually going super well. Pause him for a moment, and he's out. Boom, beautiful. But we can't celebrate too quickly because we are going to what is, in my opinion, the most difficult boss in the game, and that is the heroic fight of the Soul of the Phoenix. The first one went butter smooth, but this time, when she gets to critical HP, she's going to split into 2 different versions, and they're going to be doing stuff all over the place. It's going to make the whole map a complete danger zone, which is super scary. So we're going to leave some traps, not for her to jump on in the beginning. We actually want her to wait until after she splits to jump on those traps, so that we can make sure that that phase is as short as possible. I'm going to go ahead and do some overhand slams to build up my air attack, so that we can hit 1 more, boom, and then an air attack right there. You can see it did about 1,000 more damage than the follow-up strike. Ooh, we're going to dodge those, and we're going to try our usual loop. There we go. Missed the first 2, got the 3rd one. Get some kind of jump attacks in while she's pausing. You can see my traps are still hanging out in the left for after she divides. Ow. There we go. And we're just going to try to keep her in this loop. Beautiful. See, if you're not perfect with that, she can do another round of this, which isn't terrible. You just lose a little bit of time while she does it. Come on. Ooh, that's not what you want. There we go. I want to get... There we go. So now she's divided. Oh, she actually didn't activate the traps. That's not good. But that's okay. We'll just go ahead and try to keep these guys separated as much as possible. And then if they do come together, you just hit them both at the same time. Ooh, unless you get caught. Let's just safety heal there. No big deal. And then... Come on. There we go. You hit them both at the same time. You burn through them. No problem. Actually, it wasn't as pretty as I was hoping, but we collected some Leaf of Gaias throughout the game, which honestly are for that boss, because you can just click them, there's no wind-up for it, it just instantly fully heals you, instantly gives you all your stamina, so it's a great panic, oh my goodness, I don't want to die, let me just hit that button, and you're good to go. So as dangerous as that fight can be, just put your Leaf of Gaias on, you'll be fine. So those are the 5 heroic bosses. We're going to now level up and head to the boss of Ending C, which is Endless. And then at the end of that fight, we would typically just interact with the Source of Immortality and the game would end. But now that we have fought 5 heroic bosses, we can choose Ending A or Ending B. Ending B is betraying your homie Death. We don't want to do that. We want to side with Death because he's been our bro this whole game. But first we have to defeat Endless, who's a pretty excellent swordsman. We want to try to avoid healing in this first phase because after the first phase we get a free full heal. So let's save our resources if we can. Just kind of get some slashes in. While she's doing that big wind up, we can get some hits in. Whoops, missed the block there. Come on. There we go. And there we go. So it's first phase down. We're going to have just a little bit of dialogue. The music picks up. Oh, this is such a great fight. And now we're in her second phase, and she's about to do a pretty gnarly attack where we really want a perfect block, just like that. If you miss that perfect block, you lose a few seconds where she goes off to one side of the screen and starts shooting lasers at you. But as long as you hit that block, you just skip it. Now she has less HP than she did before, which is great. We're going to lay into her. Wonderful. And now she's going to reveal her true identity, which is very spoilery, playing through casually, but we're speedrunning, so we're not worried about that right now. And you pick each of these 3 different versions that you're going to fight in turn. They're both very similar, but do have an extra little thing. Like, this is the lightning one. So now she's going to summon a bunch of lightning, but we're faster than that. So we just go ahead and whittle down her health bar, more dialogue, and we're going to move on to the second version. This is Endless Fear. The first was Endless Sadness, this is Endless Fear, and then after this we're going to do Endless Fury. And as you saw, I was just hammering very quickly. At that last batch of leveling up on the ability tree, I gained the ability to, once I've hit the maximum stacks of my X ability, all of my attacks are much, much faster. So forget all those fireballs that were coming, we have defeated Endless and we are done. So we are about to move right along into the Ending A true sequence. All of the heroics are defeated, so now we can lock ourselves into Ending A. We approach the Source of Immortality. Things get a little trippy here. And now things start getting good.
She suffers in the afterlife.
There is a bit of cutscening, and we do lose a bit of time to dialogue with this. But casually, it's fantastic, and for the big stage, it provides a lot of opportunity for donations, which is great. I know that I and my commentators could just talk through this whole game, but when we're on stage, we need to have some time to hear some donations. That's part of the whole event of GDQ, is being able to read and hear some donations. So some cutscenes like this, I think, balance really well with showcasing some incredible fast speedrunning and also making sure we have time to do donations. One of the reasons I'm hoping that we strongly consider this game for AGDQ. So now there's going to be a bit of a show-off between the true boss of the game, that creepy guy right there, and Death, who's been our bro this whole game. And they're going to have a little bit of conversation, and we're going to have to choose. Do we side with Death, or do we side with Thalamus? Well, Death has been saving us and helping us and telling us the truth this whole time. And Thalamus, however, is, for example, showing us an illusion. He's showing in, like, this is what you can have if you side with me, and shows us this happy scene of us reunited with our family and having these happy moments. Oh, look how pleasant and happy. Except it's all just an illusion, and we don't want to just live in a dream world of this terrible guy. So we are going to choose to side with Death. We choose reality over illusion. He doesn't like that. And so we move on to the next area. One other quick point of order, just another reason we canceled the contract with Death and played Mortal this whole game. Not just so we gained double essence experience the whole time, but also because we just skipped about a 15-minute portion of the game. You are intended to kind of like fall underwater and fight your way through this whole other section of the game that casually you're going to play every time. But if you are mortal and have canceled Death's Contract, you skip that entire section of the game, which in the speedrun saves you about 15 minutes. So that's another reason why we play with Death's Contract deactivated in permadeath mode. But again, still very marathon safe because we can just menu out, close the game, and reload if we die. Which at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about. The heroic deaths, excuse me, the heroic deaths. The heroic bosses are the scariest parts of the game for sure. Not that we ever want to relax. Now that I say that, you know, if I was a superstitious person, I'd be knocking on all the wood in the world. But we're going to move on back to the underground section because now we have to go collect some soul fragments so that we can kind of rescue the rest of our allies who are stuck in this looping nightmare of Thalamus and go on to actually challenge the avatar of Thalamus. So we have to backtrack just a little bit. We're going to have to beat this guy to break down that wall, no problem. And last time we dropped down right here. Instead, we're going to skip over and meet back up with our little holographic boy. If you try to go this way earlier, there's a wall here that stops you right there. This time, he unlocks it for us because we are ready to proceed. We're going to save at this quick death idol because we want to Crow's Feather back here very shortly. We're going to go get a new item that we need, and then rather than walk back, we're just going to Crow Feather back. This idol is a very this item is a very interesting little thing. It's a little ball, and you throw it, and then you teleport to wherever it lands. Interesting. It's basically a way into a lot of different areas in the game where there are tiny cracks that you're not designed to enter until you have that thing. So it's really just kind of a Metroidvania gimmick where there are these tiny cracks that you absolutely can't get into. You get this item, and then you can get into all those areas. So we're going to fly up. We're about to have a quote boss battle against a training dummy. It's mostly silly, but kind of fun. So there's a bunch of corpses in this room. There's a little training dummy. You talk to him. He puts a bunch of parasites in your inventory. These things do damage over time. I'm going to not equip it like I just tried to do. We're going to have to drop all these out of our inventory because our health is just slowly going down while we have them. And then we're going to fight it. And it's down. No big deal. I do like that the boss music kicks up and all that stuff. But it's really guarding our warp orb generator that we need right here. So we grab that. I'm going to equip it. And, whoop, I used it. What I meant to do was Crow's Feather. There we go. And now we're moving right along. So we went up there before to go get it. Now we're going to drop down here after we avoid the electric bolt. Just crash down. And see, little gap, can't get through there unless we throw our little ball. And then we pop right on through. Here's some more storyline about the discovery of the source of immortality. Skip a bunch of these bads. Hop on through. Crash down. And another little area where those electric blasts don't go away. So we avoid getting zapped just by throwing the orb. And it just bamps us right through. This one, whoops. Okay. This one does kind of, you want to try to time it. I timed it horribly. That's all right. Zip on through these bad guys. These guys just get in your way. You just zap right on through that big drop. All of these guys can overwhelm you really quickly, so I kind of quickly dash to the right before they get on top of you, and then you just appear on the other side. I could safety save off to the right over there. I think we're doing pretty good. So we're about to fight the boss of this area. It's the Aberrant AI. We're very quickly going to see a glimpse of the super boss in this game, who we are not going to see in this run. There's a whole crazy complicated process to unlock that thing. We do not want to play with him. Cosmic threat detected is what the AI said. That's appropriate. But then in locking down, he freaks out a little bit, so we're going to have to subdue him. And so we have another little boss battle here. So we're just going to dodge his attacks. He's going to kind of zip back and forth, activate a bunch of little things. I'm going to miss that attack. He's going to go inside of this creature, so now we have to defeat this creature before we can actually start working on the boss proper again. He's down. So then our little bro appears, and he's going to, of course, dodge me. Zip over to the other side of the screen. That's fine. Pass through there. Almost got him. Throwing all kinds of little bombs at us. It's not very nice. And he's down. All right. Equip our crow's feather here so that as soon as we pick up that soul shard, we bamf out. It's actually a little scary. If you wait too long to crow feather there, you can go invisible and kind of soft lock the game, and you don't want that, so you just immediately crow feather out as soon as you pick it up, and it's no problem. That takes us back to the last death idol that we used, which is also where we can fast travel. So we come on back to Fruipies, because this is where 2 of our 3 allies are. So we're just going to zip as quickly as possible over to them. We're going to kind of see their corpses here. For some reason, going to try to walk right past them. And what we need to do is just soul dive each of these creatures, which is essentially just activate a cutscene. So this guy, believe it or not, has been storyline relevant the whole game, even though we have skipped all of his dialogue. He's currently trapped in a nightmare, so you're kind of seeing what that nightmare is, where his son thinks he betrayed him, and he feels like a bad father because he had to go and do this important stuff, blah, 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 blah. So this would be a good time for donations. Instead, what we're going to do is mash to convince him that he doesn't have to stay this way, and he should wake up so that we can make things better, and apparently we're very, very convincing.
It was too.
If you're playing D&D, we roll a really high persuasion check.
I can't show her my face.
Sorry, I play a lot of D&D, so there was that. And we collect his soul, no problem. Doesn't take too long. We're going to just walk a couple of steps and do the same thing to Ione, who was the first boss of the game, showed up in a couple of other bosses. We're going to see her short history of regret, and then we're going to move on. So, Soul Dive Ione. Again, good time for donations. This is a good time for a few donations. We're going to watch her regrets. And then after this, we're going to bamf back and do the same thing to Everly, who was Endless, who was the boss of Ending C. Turns out she's very storyline relevant and has a strong personal connection to our main character. But this is a speedrun, so we're not worried about those types of connections. Also, it's a cool reveal when you're playing this game casually. So those 2 are done. We quickly crow feather just immediately back to our last death idol. Back to the happy restaurant. Go ahead and dream shift to where the boss of Ending C was. And we're going to be very, very careful to, when we interact with the body, not activate the heroic version of that fight. That would be bad and extremely challenging and almost certainly end the run. Instead, we're going to soul dive Everly and go into her cutscene. That's what we want to do. We do not want to accidentally activate the heroic fight. If we did and I misclicked, I would just immediately menu out, go back, reload the game, because it would just put me right back at that death idol where I just fast traveled into, so it'd be no problem. But we're not going to do that. We're going to click responsibly. Storyline, storyline, storyline. Once we get into this next area, the game's going to suddenly start getting pretty trippy. Because the storyline reveals that instead of just being in this, medieval castle-y area, we've actually been trapped in Thalamus's nightmare. And as that nightmare begins to collapse and we learn the truth, things get pretty trippy. He's going to call us out, the player, at a certain point, where literally whatever your profile name is in the Switch shows up on the screen. So if I'm fortunate enough to be selected for the big stage, I will absolutely create a profile named AGDQ 2025. So we get that nice little pop-up on the screen. That'll be cool. But that's not for a little while yet. Ending A adds about a half hour, maybe 35 minutes into the run. I still think it's incredibly worth it, especially because it offers a little bit more time for donations, where Ending C is a little extremely fast-paced, but more so because it introduces Thalamus, this super cool, crazy, trippy boss. It's going to do this section here where the first thing that ever happened as soon as we booted up the game is that we did this soul initialization. This is kind of suggesting that Thalamus himself is interfering with whatever that meant. We find out later, but we just get reconnected. All it is functionally is a cutscene. And now we're gonna have a little bit of a conversation while he figures out what to do with us. Basically tells us he put us in a little pocket dimension while he figures out what to do with us. Powerful creature. We mash a little bit. We don't want to mash too hard because now, storyline-wise, our main character, Soren, loses a bunch of his memories. We are going to guide him back to his memories. So we need to interact with each one of these things and select the correct answer. It's kind of a quiz of have you been paying attention to the story in this game? The questions that pop up are random. There's a pool of questions, and which ones pop up is completely random. So we can't just memorize exactly what to click each time. I actually do need to take a second to read it and then select the correct answer. And then for each one we get wrong, we take a little bit of damage, and each one we get right, we heal. And that's going to happen another time throughout the game. So now we're in the collapsing nightmare, and we're going to have a short sequence where we're literally just getting through this area as quickly as possible while we relive some previous moments in the game. Here's some quotes from past characters. Just a collection of a lot of the different experiences that this game had to offer, kind of just building up to this big climax here at the end. Get to the end here, the bottom drops out, we dash down. And we're going to interact with another little soul who is trapped down here. When you play this game nice and slowly, you find out at the top of her dialogue sequence that she has a name, and her name is Eva. But for some reason, when we go through really quickly, her name is just Confirm Class Selection. I don't know if you caught it there at the top of those dialogue boxes, but apparently her name is just Confirm Class Selection. That's funny to me. We'll see her again. You'll get a chance to see it again later. But for now, we're going to proceed through the collapsing nightmare. We're doing stuff again. We got to defeat some of these bad guys and collect more souls. There we go. Collect that. The nice thing is that each one of those things does heal you for just a little bit. So if you do take a little bit of oopsie bonk damage, you heal up just by grabbing those souls. Make sure we jump into all these purple circles before they explode and hurt us. And after we do that, we can move on. Little versions of ourselves are going to taunt us because this is a nightmare. Avoid the big scary blasts. We're moving on. And now we're going to have to refight some bosses. Remember him? We got to fight him all over again. And, oh, and I'm accidentally going to get grabbed. That's not what we want. We're all right. They've got a little less health this time, but otherwise are exactly the same. I'm going to try to beat him on the left side of the screen, because down that little hallway to the left is a book for Thalamus. So I'm going to zoop over here to get it, so now we'll do an extra 5% damage to Thalamus. And it just saves time defeating him on the left side of the screen, so you can just dip in and out without having to cross more ground. We're going to skip that death idol because that last boss battle went pretty well. We don't need to worry about it. He's hallucinating his son being mean to him. We're going to collect his soul. We'll protect him. It's going to be fine, buddy. Dash on through those things. More baddies. Whoop, forgot the soul. Gotta grab that in order for these little doors to open. And just a little further in this area, and then you just saw me fight one old boss. What's more fun than fighting one boss? Fighting two bosses at the same time. What could possibly go wrong? We'll be fine. We hope. So this is the Eldritch Council and Bi-Surge, and they're going to attack us both at the same time because they're real polite. And I'm just going to have to dodge all of their stuff that's happening at the same time. It can be a little hectic, but we should be okay. Again, they've got a little less health than before. I like to try to position myself in such a way so that they stand close to one another, so that I can hit them both at the same time. If things start to get really hairy, I can dip to one side of the screen Eldritch Council will stay pretty static and Bi-Surge will chase me, so then I can separate them. But I like to keep them together so I can just hit them both at the same time. We do kind of have to wait for Bi-Surge's same explosion sequence. And there we go. We don't have to worry about saving, that would just take more time, and we're trying to go fast. We're going to see Ione and some of her nightmare stuff. You remember that boss. There's actually a relationship between those two. That's storyline. We don't need to worry about that. But as Thalamus scoops his soul back up, because he's really mean, Ione's going to be really worried about it. We're going to protect her soul. And now that little girl, confirmed class selection. She hears her mommy. Oh, my buddy's on. As she hears her mommy, we're going to have a little bit of a Zelda Lost Woods section where we've got these 4 directions to go and we have to follow our mom's voice. So as you start moving the right direction, you hear your mom calling your name, which tells you you're moving in the right direction. Fortunately, it's the same directions every time, so we just memorize those directions to move through this section very, very quickly. And we are getting pretty close to the final checkpoint and the boss of the run. And the boss of Ending A, the true final boss. Pick up that last soul. We're going to do our very last save. So let's level up all the way. And let's go beat this game. Now that we've kind of collected everybody's souls, that we're going to kind of band together to go defeat Thalamus. Together. And we're moving. So Thalamus is going to start getting desperate now. We want to try to maximize our distance in these dashes while avoiding damage from those blasts so that we hit the bottom there before the third one, saves time. And now as we get to the bottom of this section, we are in the final boss arena. There's going to be a bit of monologuing, so it's a good time to make sure you've got everything appropriate equipped. We put our Fragile Courage back on because we want the +10. Going to spend the rest of our ability points here. Grant us some extra defenses that'll be nice for this final boss battle. I'm going to unequip some of these items I'll never use again. There is no more Crow's Feathering out, and there is no more using a Warp Orb. Instead, all I've got equipped is my 1 Healing Plume and my Leaf of Gaia's, which are kind of, you know, mega elixirs. They just fully heal you. And now the game is calling us out. That's your name, right? Or is that your computer's name? Where it says Matt, that's my name. That's my profile on GDQ. Or excuse me, that's my profile on my Switch. I will absolutely create an AGDQ 2025 profile if I'm fortunate enough to be selected, so we can have a little moment there of, oh, Thalamus is threatening GDQ itself. We have to defeat him. It'd be a fun little thing for the crowd to get into. And so he's talking, I'm coming for you next. He's talking to us. He is talking to the player. He is saying once he defeats our character, he is going to come into reality and attack us. That's creepy, man. Like, what antagonists do that? Oh, this is cute. Yeah, see? I told you. Ending A gets real crazy. We are getting at a point now where Thalamus is super upset with us. He just does damage to us. We just took a bunch of damage and there was nothing we could do about it. Fight a few versions of ourselves. This section is actually pretty quick. We fall in a little despair. We got to answer some trivia questions. Fortunately, that fully heals us again. Avoid those exploding bodies of our allies. Oop, little bonk. Last set of trivia questions. And now we're just going to do our last couple of dodge rolls through here. Make sure we hit these circles. And it's about to be game time. So he does a huge chunk of damage to us because he's super rude. We're going to go ahead and heal it. And then I'm going to do some overhand slams so that I have a nice big boost to my first aerial attack. And let's go. Yeah, see the background? Things are getting crazy. So for this fight, I want to do surprise. As much damage as possible, as quickly as possible. I realized right before I said that how obvious it sounded for a speedrun. But the reason specifically is because once he's low health, he can activate an ability where he disappears off screen and just summons a bunch of stuff to attack us, and you lose about 45-50 seconds. We want to defeat him before that happens to save all that time. Fortunately, when we hit him, he drops these little souls, and picking them up does give us a little bit of a heal. My strategy is to use my X attack as much as possible to activate the ability that allows me to slam more quickly as early as possible, so we can just start going ham on him. Let's go. Of course, he's dashing around. Gonna be difficult about it. Got a nice block there. Whenever he summons those clones, that means he's getting close to doing his second phase attack. We want to avoid it. Should be alright. Got him. Alright, so there is a second phase here, but we're basically in victory lap mode. We're going to have a little sequence here where it looks like Hope is lost, and then Hope comes back, and then we fight him again. We still need to beat him as quickly as possible, but we're actually going to be invulnerable during that point, so we are in victory lap mode here. So all the souls we've been collecting and freeing are now coming to protect us from this constant onslaught that he is raining in on us. But the power of friendship is gonna save us. As we are protected by these souls. Although Thalamus says we can't hold on forever, he may have a point. He is looking pretty big and scary and awful. Oh hey, there's confirmed class selection, which is totally her name. And she's going to talk about how she woke some people, and they woke some people, and they woke some people, and let's all unite.
We've all come back to help you.
After everything you go through to unlock ending A, this is a really cool let's go moment against the boss. We're going to stand up against you. You will not keep us looped in a nightmare. Lend us your power. Let's end this. So now we're just going to do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, if I can press the right buttons here. We can see the nightmare starting to collapse as we do damage. The screen itself is starting to crack as we weaken the grip from his nightmare. Our allies join the battle. It's fairly chaotic. We're still a little ways on time. We're not there yet. There's a scene after this. I'll let you guys know. But we are getting pretty close, a few minutes away. Come on. Let me finish you. There we go. Finish him off with a cross attack. And now we are going to very specifically, this is super important, do not press buttons. Don't do it. This is one of Thalamus's last tricks. He tries to trick you into starting New Game Plus. If you start New Game Plus here, it starts New Game Plus. You do not see the end of ending A. You just jump right into New Game Plus, which is terrible. But you can see your allies trying to call to you from where they are, telling you not to do it. Do not press buttons at this moment. It will literally start the game over. But the music gets all distorted. There's a long delay before you can kind of accidentally press the button. So I've never accidentally pressed a button here, even when I forget this is about to happen, because the music gets all distorted. There's a bit of a delay before you can press it. So it's actually pretty safe, but do not select New Game Plus or you will not get ending A there. He tricks you and you move on to New Game Plus. But we resisted that temptation, so we now begin to wake up. And we're going to hear Soren, our playable character, we're going to hear his actual voice for the first time in the whole game. Because this is technically the first time we've ever actually been awake. And we're going to be freed. by our ally.
Mother?
And we are getting pretty close to the end of the run here. Just a couple of minutes. Hey, you remember her?
Feels like
There's
a
Everly, one of our allies. Let's take a look outside. So this is what is actually happening outside. Still not great. It's an invasion. Not good. But better we be here for it than stuck in a looping nightmare of a terrible eldritch god. So we're going to get control of our character again here in a moment, and then we are just about done. So let's zip on through. No need to save there. We are in victory lap mode. We can't die here. Look who shows back up. One more time. He's such a good villain. He really is. He even shows back up in reality, except this time all of our allies are here to help. So as soon as we do a certain amount of damage to him, it's going to start the endgame process, and then time is going to be on the last button input, which is going to be a text box from Everly. So just try to get as much damage as possible in. Pretty smooth so far, except for all that. There we go. All right, so we are done actually playing right now. All we got to do is mash some text. And we're going to see our allies just laying into this guy. And he's going to try to summon something super awful. And we attack, and we attack, and we attack. Get him, Everly. Get him.
It's not working.
It's not working. You know what we should do? We should grab the source of immortality and throw it in that big explosion thing to take out him and the source of immortality at the same time. And time is coming up in time. And that is Death's Gambit Afterlife Ending A. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed watching this run. I'm not going to ramble too much longer because I've had your patience now for about an hour and a half, considering this as a potential opportunity for GDQ. I sincerely hope that you consider it. I don't believe that it's ever been run before at GDQ, and it is having a resurgence in popularity, so it might be a wonderful opportunity to show it to some more people, because it's an outstanding Metroidvania, great combat, rewarding exploration, wonderful soundtrack, great voice acting, just a truly phenomenal game that I think is a great play to both watch speedrun and observe speedrunning. So I will end it there. Thank you so much for taking the time to even consider this run, and I hope to see you all someday soon, maybe in Pittsburgh. But otherwise, until then, my name is Spicy Paladin. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Take care.